Hello again, this is Dr. Jimmy, and it's still Friday the 17th of February, and I'm continuing now right away from my previous video into my history of the event of Halloween Horror Nights 24 at Universal Orlando Resort in the year 2014, actually Universal Studios Florida, and I had completed the 4 scare zones, and I was just getting to what was called the opening moment, which was sort of the opening ceremony every single night of the event, weather permitting, when the guests were massed at the front gate waiting for them to swing open so we could go in and enjoy Horror Nights. Suddenly, above us, to the right, if you're standing right back above you, to behind and up to the right, if you were standing facing the gates, close to the gates. If you're further back, of course, you might not see him at all, but there was the polite stranger from the Purge in his prep school blazer and his funny clear plastic mask, and he's got a megahorn with him, megaphone, a megaphone with him, and he pulls up his mask so you can see his pretty face, and he starts talking on the megaphone, and he starts telling us that the Purge is about to begin when the sirens go off for 12 hours. There would be all crime will be legal, including murder, and proceeds to say that we'll have the right to purge ourselves of all of our inclinations of violence, and the great good the Purge does for us, and God bless America, God bless the new founding fathers. Right, and next thing you know, the sirens go off, and the Purge begins, and just then, of course, is when the gates open, and there's a whole mass of purgers. The pretty girls with her mask, and the guy with the from Purge Anarchy with the mask that says God, except it's backwards, it says dog, and they've got chainsaws, and they've got axes, and they've got baseball bats with nails in them, and all kinds of nasty weapons here too. There's one that had like a golf club, and they're all here to come after you as you go in and chase you down the street to begin Horror Nights 24. And so there was a lovely opening moment every night, and that was, I think, then finishes up all of the street activities in addition to the scare zones. And if that's the case, I must now move on to the next part of my history. Shows! Now, I've already talked a bit about shows that happened in the scare zones, but these are the actual stage shows. There were 2 of them that year. The first was in the Beetlejuice stage. The now defunct Beetlejuice stage. And although the stage hadn't been torn down until after Halloween Horror Nights 25, this was the last show to ever be presented for Horror Nights in the Beetlejuice stage. The last time it was used for Horror Nights in 2014. After the event, it continued. They continued to do the Beetlejuice show well through 2015, but eventually they stopped the show entirely, and then began, of course, to tear the stage down along with that whole area. And last year, of course, it was already gone. And they're working very hard on a new attraction that will take up all of what used to be the disaster attraction, as well as the Beetlejuice stage area. It's a huge building is going up. It's going to be the Fast and Furious attraction, which is supposed to open up next year. But back in 2014, of course, they hadn't started that construction. The disaster was still going. They would still do another haunted house in disaster in 2015. But although the Beetlejuice stage was open in 2015 for the Beetlejuice show during the day, they didn't have any Halloween Horror Nights entertainment in that location. the following year. So this was the final show for the Beetlejuice stage for Horror Nights. And it was, once again, the Rocky Horror Picture Show tribute. It was the 5th time it had ever been done. Previously in 2007, 2008 and 2009. And then the last 2 times they did it were 2013 and 2014. So, 2014, again, the show was pretty much the same show they'd always ever done. They reenacted the Rocky Horror plot. Some musical numbers were not used, some were. The same ones we'd always seen. The actors were sexy. Rocky was played by a rather strapping, muscular man who was quite attractive, and even Frankenfurter was quite attractive and muscular compared to the previous actor who'd played him in earlier years. So they had pretty much the same sort of cast, and it was the same sort of show. But even more that year, the amount of interactivity and shoutbacks from the audience had been diminished, and I think it was because people were told to not, to not say anything that would offend other guests and not shout the F word or anything, which of course blows the whole effect of Rocky Horror, because you're supposed to, shout back. You're supposed to shout asshole whenever Brad's name is mentioned. You're supposed to shout slut whenever Janet's name is mentioned. And there's all sorts of amusing things you're supposed to shout out when certain song lyrics or certain phrases are mentioned on the stage, And so, what's Rocky Horror if you don't get to fuck the back row? I mean, the fun of it was diminished tremendously. But I enjoyed the show nevertheless. But there's really not a lot to say about it that I haven't covered previously when I talked about the show in previous videos. There was nothing really new or different that year. Except, of course, it was the last time it was done, and I was glad that I saw it as many times as I did, because there would be no further appearances of that show or any other show in the Beetlejuice stage for Horror Nights after that. So then, all I have to do now is to talk about the only other show, and that show, of course, was Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure. Unlike Rocky Horror, this one changes up quite a bit every year, because it's based on that previous year's popular culture. And of course every year there's new stuff that happens in pop culture and movies and music and television and even internet memes that create all sorts of opportunities for other humor. Once again, the show was presented in the Fear Factor Auditorium. It still boggles my mind that they're still called the Fear Factor Auditorium. It's been, I think, nearly a decade since Fear Factor was on the air, and I wonder why they don't change that some way. I think that's long overdue for an overhaul, but it's still the Fear Factor Auditorium. And when you went in, what you saw when you sat down and listened to some music and watched amusing videos was a stage set up to look like a college fraternity house. It immediately brought to mind some frat movies. You might think Animal House, but more likely The Neighbours, which had been on the cinemas quite recently. A great big frat house, and it looked like the Greek letters were Sigma, Pi, Delta, SPD, I guess. And you're looking at all of that and wondering what's going to happen. Well then, when it's time for it, the stage goes dark, and on the screen suddenly it's a mysterious hooded figure with a white mask. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Sort of reminds me of PS from the previous year's legendary truth nonsense. But that wasn't what it was at all. The strange, sinister masked figure welcomes you to this great frat party and to the show, and that everyone must wear magical tracking bands. A joke on Disney's magic bands and the magical tracking bands, and then says these magical no one has actually been killed by wearing magical tracking bands. It won't hurt you. It won't kill anybody. And please pretend that. Don't believe any stories about them killing anybody. It's like, okay. And then he thinks he's off camera and he says, "Does this make me look fat?" And it's kind of silly. So after that, it jumps right in to the show, and we have the frat boys showing up, and their leader is Zac Efron up on a balcony. And he wants to get the frat party started. We find out the frat is actually Smegma Pi Delta. And let's see. Then it starts out with they bring out Justin Bieber as a pledge. And once again, Justin Bieber is played by a female actor, although playing the boy part. And I think they actually did a male voiceover, or the actress did a good job in sounding more male, but it was clearly not actually, it was clearly a girl doing the part again, as a pledge is going to be hazed quite a bit by the frat boys. And then coming out to explain more fully is the character of Red from Orange is the New Black, played here, and I guess it's all right to mention actors' names, especially when they've been talked about so much openly. Even last year, that she was brought on stage at the end of the event on the last night and given credit for helping write the show last year. So I can say Sharon, and Sharon is playing Red, the character. She's the Russian inmate who's the head chef in Orange is the New Black, and she gives the rules, of course. The rules about photography and the warnings about foul language and saying in this, and you will see the sexy people. Yes. You will see the sexy people. And then she looks up at Zac Efron. You will see the sexy people? And he says, okay. And he rips open his shirt, showing off his lovely muscular body, because it was Jason. There's like 17 different Jasons. This is the sexiest one. Okay, the sexiest dancer named Jason. I think you know who I mean if you follow the show. So he's showing off his manly physique. Remember, he's the one who was Superman the year before, who ripped off the S and made all the girls faint. Yeah, so he's showing that off, and everyone is, you will not photograph or video the sexy people. And Justin Bieber is upset by that, because he wants to, which implies some homoerotic there immediately. And then, of course, suddenly Justin Bieber dies. It's like a sort of electrical crackle noise. Ah! And he falls over dead. That's weird. Turns out that's going to happen a lot throughout the entire show. Now, this, however, jumps immediately into the opening dance number. I think it's nothing but a good time, and in the performance, and the girls come out, and then they start doing Paradise City, Guns N' Roses, and of course, as Red predicted, you'll see sexy people. It all gets stripped off, and you see all the manly and beautiful female and male physiques as they're dancing, and quite hot and sexy opening number. This, of course, goes right into We Will Rock You, and as the frat kids and sorority girls leave the stage, the phone booth manifests itself, and out come Bill and Ted doing their opening introductions as always, and then suddenly joining them on the stage is Ice Cube. Got it. That's a bit racist, confusing the two of them. Ice Cube, yes, and in a parody of his appearance in 21 Jump Street, he tells Bill and Ted there's some freaky white people shit happening at the school, and they're going to go undercover as college students to investigate undercover and find out what's going on. because all sorts of people keep dying mysteriously. Somebody's killing all these students. All right, and I have to keep an eye on my notes. At the school for incredibly ungifted celebrities. So, while he's talking, here comes Donald Sterling. Yes, there was a different Donald in the news back then all the time. Donald Sterling, who once owned the LA Clippers, and he had said some horribly racist shit and ended up losing his team. And he's presented as a senile old man with a cane, one of those canes that have like four feet on them to help steady you. He comes crippling out and, says, "Good riddance, I've had enough of those people." And it's like, "Those people? What do you mean, those people?" "I mean these college students," and going on about and saying, "I'm just an old man. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm doing." And then a hot girl comes out and he runs off with her. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing. Right. Yeah. Creepy old racist perv, obviously. And so after that, Ice Cube takes the phone booth to go off and do something. I think he wanted to beat the crap out of somebody who had been in the news recently before he could do it. Someone named Rice, I think it was. And then after that, the boys are there to try to investigate all the murders, but they don't have their phone booth. Oh dear. So here comes in a wheelchair character with long hair like James McAvoy as Professor X, right? It's Professor Xavier, who is the professor there at the school for incredibly ungifted celebrities. And he shows off, of course, before Ice Cube leaves, he gives Bill and Ted tracking bands. Everyone has to have the magical tracking bands in order to get into the frat party. Well, here comes Professor X, and he shows off his top student, Mystical. Of course, he means Mystique, but, you can't call her, I guess, by her right name. I don't know. Copyright, lawsuit, parody, they have to be careful. So Mystical comes out, and it's Erin playing Mystical. Very funny. But she then, an almost monotone, says, "You guys look like you're in your 30s, because they're too old to be college students," right? That becomes a running gag. Then to show her shape-shifting power, she turns into slutty Miley Cyrus. And then, whoa, she'd become Magneto? And she goes back and becomes Magneto. A big man as Magneto with the helmet, but he's wearing the same outfit Miley was just wearing, which is a sort of one-piece thing that looks really obscene when a dude wears it, and it's quite hysterical. And he pushes the professor off stage after he gets up to tell Bill and Ted that they must investigate by using his psychic helmet, Cerebro-type helmet, and he's wearing fishnet stockings and pumps, a bit like Dr. Scott from Rocky Horror, a character they never saw in the Rocky Horror tribute, and I wish they had, because it would have been funny. And he gets up and he does stuff rather like Dr. Scott, putting his leg all the way up in a way I can't do, and all sorts of stuff. But when they put the Cerebro helmet on, Bill has, of course, it opens up his mind, and we see like a music video for Nothing But a Good Time with hot chicks and everything. And then when Ted puts it on, what he sees is the little internet video of a hamster eating a tiny burrito. Nom, 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 nom. How adorable. That's what Ted has on his mind. But they throw the hat away. It's crap. Okay? So, at this point, after the professor leaves the stage, who should show up but the Somali pirate from that movie with Tom Hanks. I forget the damn movie. But it was a hit in the cinema, that, yeah. But the Somali pirate captain comes and he goes and says, "Look at me. Look at me. I am the wild stallion now." And says, "You can't be a wild stallion, dude. Do you even play an instrument? Do you play drums? No. Well, then you can't be a wild stallion." So they send him off the stage. Then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles up on the screen. Oh boy, we're going to have Mutant Turtles. And here comes Megan Fox. And it's again Erin playing her. And she says that, says, you guys look like you're 40. Again, every time they're a little bit older when she talks. And again, the actual actors who play Bill and Ted would be in their 40s. And it's like, well, how do you get to be April O'Neil? And then she, boing! Those are two good reasons, yes. And so the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, except they're not Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles who show up. No. What shows up instead are people wearing silly furry outfits of, let me get this right, emo tween radioactive apes. There's an emo tween radioactive ape, a menopausal gluten-free dolphin, and then on the video we're told there also should be an American ninja dancing panda. So wait, did he say dancing panda? And then of course hashtag panda from Jimmy Fallon Tonight Show comes out to do the silly dance, and it falls and trips over the ape and the dolphin who are like having sex in the background, all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And it's all like, this is rather shitty, there's no turtles, why? Well, it turns out the movie was so ratchet, that's the word she uses. Sort of odd for a fellow like me to use a word like ratchet. Ratchet, isn't that a tool you use for like a socket wrench or something? Yeah. Anyway, so ratchet apparently. The word is wretched. God's sakes, speak English correctly. Anyway, so ratchet that and tanked that the poor turtles had to seek other work and had to do other sorts of movies. And then on the video we see the other sort of movie, and it's turtle porn. Oh my. And we see an actual turtle copulating with a croc. Apparently the croc looks rather sexy, and so the turtle's on the croc going, oh yeah, that's it. Ugh, turtle porn is disturbing. And of course, who should come out and say something? It's Donald Sterling again. Well, actually, it was Ted or Bill. So, whoa, Donatello! And it's like, that's Michelangelo, you racist! Says Megan Fox, because he can't tell one turtle from the other. And then Donald Sterling comes out. Well, they all look alike to me. Says, you're a turtle racist, you perv. So, yes, once more, he gets put in his place for being a turtle racist. Then, what happens? Megan Fox dies. Oh dear. So it keeps happening. So then suddenly it becomes The Bachelor, the frat bachelor. And we have one Pablo, the frat bachelor, with his rose to give to the right bachelorette. Where is the rose? Right here, sticking out of his crotch like a floral penis. And he's, gets that rose right in the Bill and Ted's face. Ooh, get your huge plume away from me. And he's going on speaking in like some sort of Latin lover, and he has the bachelorette show up, and they turn out to be the girls. Lucy. Do you even remember Lucy? It was some sort of science fiction movie with Scarlett Johansson, where I see everything, I know everything, or whatever, because she's like so powerful psychically, and Juan Pablo's hot for her, and she says, speak English or die, which is rather harsh, I think. And the other one was Katniss, except it isn't Katniss, it's Triss from Divergent, but who the fuck can tell the difference? That was pretty funny. And Annie, of course, the African-American version of Little Orphan Annie that had been out, and she's a lot older than a little orphan. She's like a full-grown woman, and she's got a stuffed dog to be Sandy, and she's being a bit of a slutty hoe. And all of them are like getting on to Juan Pablo, and first they think that maybe it's Lucy who's killing people, but then all of a sudden Juan Pablo drops dead. They think he's the killer. No, he drops dead, so that he can't be the killer. And the girls are like, getting ready to search his clothes for his wallet. it's all rather disturbing. So Bill and Ted wonder what's going on. Oh, here comes Maleficent flying over. Wait, Maleficent doesn't have wings to fly. Oh, someone should tell Disney. She plummets to the stage dead. The old body drop on the stage gag again. And then here comes the Somali pirate again, this time wearing a witch's hat, and goes, I am the Supreme now. Oh, a Coven reference. Yes. No, he can't be the Supreme. He's just wearing a witch's hat. And then he takes the hat off and he's got a long black wig and he says, Kim Kardashian? No. Sleepy Hollow? That isn't even a person. Now you're just saying things. And so he drags Maleficent's corpse off the stage. What he's going to do with it, I'm not certain. And necrophilia is not something I enjoy. So let's just get it past that. So, let's see. So after all that silliness, here comes, we hear the familiar music of Game of Thrones. And out on stage prances King Joffrey. Yes, from Game of Thrones, played by the same female actress who had played Justin Bieber earlier, in a blonde wig with a cup, a red plastic cup. Turns out Joffrey is pledging and has been getting purple nurples from the frat boys and is kind of put out by it. And now he has to chug a whole PBR Pabst Blue Ribbon, which is awful. Has to chug the whole thing and doesn't want to do it, but it has to for the pledge. And then, of course, suddenly Ted realizes, wait, in the books, they totally poison him. No, don't drink it. Says, all right, I shall drink it. No, no, don't drink it. No. And then finally they get him to not drink the PBR. He keeps trying to, because they know he's going to be poisoned if he drinks it, trying to save at least one life in this. And then suddenly someone's coming on stage and says, oh, I know that guy, he's a total a-hole. And so Joffrey goes running away from this person. Who is the person? He's wearing a leather jacket, played by Jeremy, who's currently on The Walking Dead. Plug for Jeremy. He comes out, he's got his 8-track, he's got a backpack. Whoa, it's a Guardian of the Galaxy. Whoa. And now he's like, what are you saying, man? I'm DJ Star-Lord, and I've got a dead raccoon on my back. And yes, the backpack was a dead raccoon. Aww. And he's come to play his shitty music mix for us. And Ted is like going up to a potted plant and going, I love you, Groot. This is, that's totally a tree, bro. So DJ Star-Lord plays some of the music mix from the movie and then plays Shout, of course, which starts off a whole toga party, great big toga party dance sequence. All the frat boys and sorority girls are on stage now, including Donald Sterling, and they're all dancing to Shout, just like in Animal House. And it segues from Shout to Turn Down for What? And so after that, suddenly, after the wonderful musical number, which is quite sexy, suddenly Donald Sterling falls over dead. So another death has happened. Good riddance, actually. So now what's going to happen? Well, after the stage is cleared of all the frat boys and Bill and Ted are bewildered, as always, suddenly steps out this beautiful princess with long brown hair, and it's played by Erin, and it's, who's that Norwegian babe? And it's Anna from Frozen. And she comes out and introduces her sister. And first of all, she has a cup that pours out water. This is my friend Olaf. And there's a carrot in the water. Oh no, he melted. Oh, and she picks up the carrot, and Ted's like, oh, I hope that carrot was his nose. And she goes, that's a dick joke. Yes, indeed it was. And then she introduces her sister, Elsa. So we all expect the beautiful Elsa from Frozen to come on stage. But who comes out? It's Sharon, who is still beautiful, but a big, beautiful woman. And she's all plus-size beauty and spectacular. And she starts singing a parody of the song, Do You Want to Build a Snowman? Which is, do you want to eat a snow cone? And the lyrics are quite hysterical, and that segues into the great musical number Elsa has in the show, which is, of course, Let It Go, which is actually now I Let Myself Go, explaining why her figure is not as svelte as it was in the movie. I Let Myself Go. You know, my roles never bothered me anyway. Pretty much an anthem against body fascism, and it was a hit. Everyone loved it and cheered because we know that big girls can be beautiful, and she was awesome, and she totally stole the show. That was one of the crowning moments for Sharon in the history of Bill and Ted, was playing Elsa in the musical number. Completely stole the show. That made, more than anything else, that made it one of the best Bill and Ted's in years, was that number alone. But I'm at 30 minutes, so I have to continue in part 10.